Scott, I'll start with you.
All right. So Scott Ehrlich, Senior Vice President, Growth Networks and Content for Sinclair Broadcast Group, which means I oversee, in a company that is highly tuned to local media, I oversee the national stuff. So whether that is our over-the-air broadcast networks, Comment, Charge, TBD, our national OTT platforms, Stir and News On, those all kind of roll up to my group. And then I spend a lot of time on innovation. So I oversee our content lab, which is our development group, and then have a role in our corporate innovation process focused on content. Historically, I've been kind of a startup turnaround guy, background in cable, but I've been in streaming for, well, in another 3 months, 26 years. So been doing this a while. And also longtime digital Hollywood guy. Good to be back and seeing everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you. Angela?
I am the newly named CEO of Players TV, and Players TV is an athlete-owned content network with athlete lifestyle programming. I have recently made the move from Los Angeles to Dallas. And I most recently, before coming to Players TV, was 8 years a senior executive at Revolt TV, another culture content company, very in tune and centered in and around OTT, linear, and streaming. So nice to meet everyone.
Excellent, and congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you. Yep, it's an amazing brand.
Sounds exciting. Can't wait to hear more about it. Jeff, how about you?
Name is Jeff Flanagan. I'm the CEO of Laugh Out Loud Network, which is Kevin Hart's OTT streaming service and production company. We have a fast channel, which is called LOL Network, that's distributed on most of the platforms, the Rokus and Plutos, et cetera, as well as we have a partnership with NBC and Comcast, Peacock, so we produce content for them also. More recently, I produced the Olympic show with Kevin and Snoop that did extremely well, went viral, as well as Kevin's show Heart to Heart. So I've been with Kevin Hart for about 10 years now. So I'm involved in his touring, his production, and all this kind of digital activities.
Excellent, wonderful. What a great person he is too, by the way. Excellent that you're involved with that. Charlotte, how about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Charlotte Maines. I'm with Amazon, where I look after the Fire TV business that's inclusive of sales, engagement, monetization, and advertising. I've had a couple of roles at Amazon over my last 8 or 9 years here, but one of those was I was the launch product manager for Fire TV back in 2014. So it's pretty gratifying to go from selling our first device back then to we just at the end of last year, at the end of 2021, which is now last year, we've now sold over 150 million Fire TV devices worldwide. So pretty cool to have been part of that story.
You're on mute, Robert.
Yeah, you.
Sorry, guys. Sang, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Sang Kim, Senior Vice President at Samsung Electronics. I look after content services on our billion devices out there. My team works on everything from video services to gaming that we just announced. I've been in technology all my life, been at Samsung for 9 years now. Previous to that, I was at YouTube and Google in the Valley. So good to see everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think that covers everyone. And my name is Robert Rodriguez, and I'm the moderator today, but I come from a background of streaming as well. We actually bought a company in Paktu from NBC many years ago, and today we produce and distribute content to platforms all over the Americas. Our focus is really the United States and Latin America, but our niche is in the Spanish language. So we do an enormous amount of short form content, primarily in the entertainment, news, and sports arena, and deliver it across multiple platforms. So really excited to have this panel going. And I guess we'll start. We sent out a bunch of questions, and I think what I'd like to do to get started is really kind of merging two questions in one. One of them is the impact of COVID in the world today. So it's kind of the 800-pound gorilla, if you will, in the room. And also how you map out what that looks like even in a year. We all thought we'd be in Vegas live. We thought that we'd be doing this in person. And I think, Sang, when I met with you on video, you said, I don't know, I'm still leaning that this is not going to be live. So kudos to you on the prediction front. And so with that in mind, I'll start with you. How do you merge this world of, COVID today behind us, in front of us, and what the business looks like today in a year and 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID has changed, and we've been into it 2 years, but I think the way we look at it is the next 10 years is hard to look at, but I look at past 10 years and how the digital experience have changed over the past 10 years. So in the music industry, in the video industry. So, I think OTT it's here to stay, right? And so looking at the 10 years, I see two things that we're going to focus on. One is the rise of fast service. I think that's definitely a service that's that's flourished in the past couple of years. We've certainly seen the data of as how people stay at their home looking for entertainment sources. Fast has grown to be a player in the market in video. The second thing for the next 10 years, if you look at the changes that's happened from physical media to over the top, we think gaming is the next opportunity where it'll bring changes to how people engage with the services.
Wonderful. Charlotte, how about you?
I definitely agree that we've seen some changes over the last couple of years that we believe are here to stay. And I mean, certainly just the rise of cord cutting that really started to accelerate in early 2020. And we've only seen that continue, through 2021. So what we're working on is making sure we double down on what's already working for customers. I mentioned 150 million devices, and we attribute that largely to offering a great customer experience. We really help customers discover great new content with our content forward UI. It's something that's really useful for customers who aren't sure what they want to watch. We're able to surface personalized recommendations to them. And it's great for advertiser and content provider customers as well, because they're able to, get their awesome content in front of customers at the right time in their viewing journey. So I think what we're leaning in on is continuing to double down on that. We refreshed our UI last year and continue to improve. But we also want to be sure that we're enabling, we're welcoming the cord cutters, right? So we want to continue to improve the live experience, particularly sports. So we're really focused on that because we know that that's something that historically has been more of a gap for streaming customers. And finally, I think what we're going to do is continue to lean into what we announced last fall, our first Amazon branded Fire television. We've historically offered streaming media player sticks, as well as partnered with great 3P brands to offer Fire TV OS in their televisions. But this is the first time we've had our own end-to-end device. And the reason that we did that is that we really wanted to be sure we were offering customers, the maximum benefits from our innovations like Alexa. So for example, with that, we know that customers love being able to control the Fire TV portion of their TVs with their voice. So why not bring it across the entire device? And so, now customers who have Amazon Fire TV can just say, watch whatever show they want to watch. They just have to say it. And the TV takes care of switching inputs, finding the provider, et cetera. And you just need to say what you want to watch. So those are areas where we're really going to focus and continue to innovate on behalf of customers.
Wonderful. I just bought one for my mom, by the way. So she
Well,
wants the voice activation. Jeff, we'll get it to you.
From our standpoint is, how COVID has impacted our business and how we look at it go forward is really from content creation. Our strategy for our FAST network, we launched with a lot of library content, just like most of the FAST networks out there, but our strategy to grow the network is really based around original content. So obviously, up until just like this week, we have production going next week. We've had to change and alter the way you produce content, because you really have to follow the COVID protocols, but it has changed. It really has changed the strategy especially for content producers and how we can produce content. I mean, it felt like it opened up towards the end of the year, then it just shut back down right now. So we're trying to pivot right now in terms of what we're doing. But part of that strategy is we are going to aggressively move into gaming because we feel that's a huge growth category for us. We moved into animation because animation was a lot. COVID actually forced us into animation because you figure that we can produce animation because the animators are at home on their computers. So it has changed our strategy in terms of the way we approach content production.
Excellent. Angela?
Yeah, I'll piggyback what Jeff said, right? Like what we learned during lockdown is that content is everything. And as we become more closed, it becomes more important that we receive and stay engaged through the content. And having more content is what we're seeing matters to customers. So here at Players TV, we are very much in a growth mode. The company is only 2 years old. We have athlete lifestyle content that is rich for consumers. We are seeing it through our Fubo and Philo and Samsung push networks. We are also launching an on-demand service in February. So for our 2-year anniversary, we will lean into the COVID restrictions and really take hold of knowing that consumers want this content, and we'll offer another platform on which to deliver it to them through a platform called Athletes on Demand. So we're leaning into it, we are pushing forward, and we're growing this new business by leaps and bounds.
Wonderful, thank you. Scott?
So certainly echo everything that everybody's said so far. A couple things I would add to it, right? So we certainly saw a surge in viewing to both News On and to Stir. So Stir is our channel, or is our sort of general entertainment OTT service, 140 channels. News On is a news specific product. Both of those had huge surges starting in the pandemic. I mean, it was a political year, so they would have had a bit of a lift anyway, but it was certainly much higher, right? And you've seen a lot of those gains and a lot of the interest in news and local news sustained since then. And whether that trend continues for the next 10 years, you know, who knows? I don't have that crystal ball. But when I look out 10 years, there's a couple of things that kind of make sense that were accelerated over the last 2 years. So you've seen a trend over the last 20, 30 years to more of a work from home, work from anywhere, work independently kind of mode. That has been permanently turbocharged. There's no going back. What will hybrid work look like? How many people will work in office full time? How many people will work at home full time? I don't think anybody really knows that, but that dynamic has changed permanently, and there's really no going back. I have my traffic team, which is in West Palm Beach, Florida, was a team that we sent to work from home, and I had no idea what would happen, and they have absolutely crushed it over the last 2 years. So now we start having return to office conversations, and they're sort of like, yeah, we don't want to go back. And, you know, there may be, you know, pushes from other parts of the company to get people into the office, but I sort of look at that and go, I don't have any leverage in that conversation as the department head. What am I supposed to say to them? Like, come to the office because it's not working at home. It's worked great at home, right? Keep going, right? What matters is the work and helping people find work-life balance. And that's, I think, the second theme that is permanently part of the conversation now is work-life balance, mental health, balancing those with getting the work done. It's inextricably intertwined with the work from home flexibility going forward. The other thing that I think we've seen an acceleration of is, I'm old enough to remember when web became Web 2.0. And while I personally take offense to what's currently going on being called Web 3, because I think it's actually Web 4, what's being commonly referred to as Web 3, this decentralized web, that is another factor that has been permanently inserted into the conversation and accelerated. How that plays out over the next 10 years to me is super interesting, because you look at a decentralized web, ad sales moving to an impression-based paradigm, that impression-based paradigm being turbocharged by personal data, people wanting to manage their personal data. You got a lot of forces that are related and important, but not figured out yet. And I think that decentralized web part, combined with the need on behalf of the ad-supported businesses to have data about customers to serve the right ads, and get a premium for those ads, let's be clear. And the need for customers to be able to have users, humans, to have control over their personal data. I think those are really, really interesting themes over the next 5-10 years.
Very interesting. Sang, I'd like your input on what he just said regarding the decentralized, even the fact that we may have been actually in Web 4.0 and never in Web 3.0, but the decentralized movement. How do you view that in the grand scheme of things? You're on mute.
I agree with what Scott said. We look at the consumer behavior on billion devices out there, right? And how people are using it. So, and I think that, decentralization, if I put it to the user experiences, video consumption, for example, how it's consumed, the types of video on mobile and transitioning into large screen. We've been talking about this whole anytime, anywhere. But I think that is, as we look at the data on people are consuming this, is becoming very clear. The types of video that are consumed on type of devices. But I think our role in decentralization also is to make access to users. So let them make the choice of this decentralization, and we'll see that behavior. So for us, from a platform perspective, is we give the choice to users, and then we'll see what they choose to do with it. But I agree, decentralization, we're going to continue to expand that and contract and find that right balance of user experience.
Charlotte, how about you? How do you see this?
I think I agree with what's been said on this topic. We're also just about, it's kind of interesting. I mentioned the first Fire TV, and the bet that we made on the original device that we launched was this content forward UI, really helping customers discover what they want to watch. And the reason we did that back then is, this was when, if folks can recall, basically you had cable, right? Like that's what you had. You didn't really understand why do I need to plug something else in my, into my TV? I kind of don't love cable, but I have what I need. And we were like, no, this is a way for customers to discover there's a lot more out there. Maybe there's a favorite movie or show you remember from years ago. Look, here it is right in front of you. And it turned out to be prescient, because what's happened is we see so many content providers today that customers are confused in a different way. How did they discover what they want to watch? They don't, the name itself may not mean anything to them, or maybe they've never even heard of it. Like a Tubi, a fast provider who offers great content, and a customer's never heard of that and doesn't realize that, they could watch a great show for free, through that provider. So again, for us, it's all about making sure that we're using the cues that we understand about, what our customers enjoy watching, to surface that content to them at the right time in their journey. And it's also about responding to the different type of content. Again, as there's more short form or more, international providers, for example, who might, cater to a specific niche of customers, we want to be sure that customers are able to discover and enjoy that content in a way that makes sense and feels native to the 10-foot living room experience as well.
Excellent. Angela?
It's hard to go after Charlotte, because I'm just hanging on every word. I was an early adapter of the Fire Stick, Charlotte, so I'm a huge fan. I think the group has covered it all. Like, there is so much content out there. The way that it is served to consumers and promoted to consumers is, ever more important. And this group, I think, is really expounding on that, right? I think our charge in the future will be to ensure that we create content that is for the appetite of consumers, and then serve to them in the way that they can quickly go through a user experience and pull the content that they choose to either watch or go back to or binge, right? We haven't even started talking yet about how viewers, want to binge content. We see evidence that folks don't want to just one-off content. They want to binge what they want to watch when they want to watch it on devices, when and where they are. So, I think all of that becomes super important in the next year to 5.
And Jeff?
From our standpoint, in terms of decentralized web, first I would say that our philosophy is, and you've heard this term, content is king, especially in this COVID area. Content is a driver, but we're distribution agnostic. So we're going to go to wherever the consumer's at. So if it's decentralized web where we need to distribute our content, we're going to be there any and everywhere. So we really take an agnostic approach to how we distribute content, because one of the things that I think that, especially for Hollywood, and you saw this with the music industry, is the consumer's in control now. So if the consumer's there, then that's where we're going to be at with our content distribution.
It just it's so important, Robert. I'm sorry to jump in again, but Jeff has such a great point. Like, there is so much content, and I think we're all hitting on the same point of decentralizing it and meeting our customers where they are. I really think that's the expectation, whether with Charlotte's Fire Stick, or as Jeff said, pushing content and ensuring that it's on several platforms to just meet our viewers and our customers exactly where they are, right?
Yeah. And let me ask you, staying on that and staying with you, Angela, if you look at Financial Times did a report last week, I think there was 115 billion projected to be spent from the big players in streaming and others in the whole production world. It's an unprecedented amount of money being thrown at this. There is a proliferation of appliances. So how do we actually when do we hit the overboard and overwhelming side of it via subscriptions or anything else? And where are we in that journey?
I don't think we're anywhere near maxed out, or else that amount of money wouldn't be spent on it, right? I think if we counted amongst this group of a Brady Bunch group that we have collected here today, we all probably use multiple devices at multiple times. I am sitting here right now with 5 things at my beck and call, just at my fingertips, right? That doesn't even count my refrigerator at home that has a screen and my devices at home. I am an owner of 3 Fire Sticks. And let's not even talk about how many platforms I pull through that Fire Stick. So I don't think we're anywhere near proliferation. And if we were, that amount of money would not continue to be spent. We wouldn't see new content companies launching with success like Players TV has if we were at the proliferation of that content and platforms on which to receive it.
Charlotte, you have a comment on that?
I think that I agree. And, there will be some expanding and contracting, as was referenced earlier, for sure, because it is overwhelming to customers. But we have found that there is an appetite for any type of content that we offer customers on Fire TV. Some have greater usage and awareness than others, but there's nothing that, just sort of sits there never getting used. And I think one of the things that we want to be sure that we offer those content providers is ways to get, their content in front of customers so that they are able to discover it and start watching and enjoying something that might be of great interest to them and maybe more niche, Angela, exactly like your type of content. And thank you, by the way, for being an early customer. We definitely appreciate that. So again, it's really about making sure that customers are able to sort through the noise to find what works for them. I think also, that does lead to the rise in FAST that we're certainly seeing, to piggyback on an earlier topic that was brought up that I know we'll spend time on today, because, we want to make sure that whether customers are willing to pile on more subscriptions, as we know some certainly are, others aren't, right? Subscription fatigue is a real thing. And so we want to be sure that they have plenty of things to watch too, without that incremental subscription.
Excellent. Sang, I see you nodding your head, so I am assuming you're in agreement, but what's the overlook there?
Well, a couple of things, right? So as the billions and billions are spent in content creation, especially in the SVOD market, I think look how many SVOD services came out and how they're organizing themselves, of offerings. But I always say that there's so much great content out there. My kids will probably end up never seeing all the Academy awarded movies, or all those they watch Friends and all these contents that I grew up watching, right? So there's going to be a ton of content, right? How do you distribute them? How do you monetize them? And I think that's where FAST comes in. And I think the great thing about FAST on top of that is, I was very impressed with all the content creators, how they were able to so quickly adapt and put together the content, be able to stream. So, I mean, they come to us and they're able to launch their stream in a matter of days now, right? On top of that, if they're going to spend billions of dollars, the way to recoup that is obviously through monetizing, through advertising on FAST. I mean, we are on the platform today, we're playing with, ad loads, right? On the fly. So, we try 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes to see what is the best user experience, right? Is more ads better? Are they engaging? Or can we actually pull back a lot of ads, still be able to monetize? So all these trials and tests that we're doing is going to just make the user experience much better and fast, and also develop the ecosystem with advertisers and content providers.
Thank you. Scott, do you have an opinion on that, what Sang just mentioned?
Well, I have an opinion on everything. It's kind of my brand. No, so I think you've got a couple things. So certainly the technology has made launching fast channels like way easier, right? There's a half dozen or more providers that essentially provide channel making as a service. I don't think that's a real industry term, but let's go with it for now. And I think that's enabled a lot of people to take library content and build a fast channel and build a path to monetization. Now, we have a slightly different lens on this than some others. Our promotional platform is broadcast television stations. And so we tend to have an older skewing audience, even on OTT, than almost anyone else. And so the experience that we have is the things that tend to succeed on our platforms, and some of the others that we study, tend to be the most recognizable titles, because all of these services have some version of a discovery challenge, right? It's very difficult outside of voice control, right, which is a very elegant solve, but not on everything yet. It's very, very difficult to build a proper discovery experience for a 10-foot UI. Very few have done it even marginally successfully. The bigger issue is the bigger discovery problem that is really started to manifest itself second half of last year, but it's kind of going to get worse this year, and I don't really see a near-term solution, which is the billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that are being spent by the SVOD services creating content, make it so that they are almost obligated to spend a outsized amount on the app stores to drive downloads. And what that basically means is anybody else who wants to get into those app stores is very challenged, because simple supply and demand, there's only so many spots on the Roku App Store, the Fire App Store, etc. And they've been bid up by people that have a lot of money at stake and a reason to bid it up. And so the ad-supported services wind up being very, very challenged, which to me really highlights the OEM opportunity around fast channels. And what Samsung's done with Samsung TV Plus is fantastic, right? And it's integrated into the device. It's integrated into my discovery experience of watching over-the-air channels. And yes, I have an antenna on my house because that's a thing now. And it's a much smoother discovery process. But even then, you have, I don't know how many channels you guys have on Samsung TV Plus now, but let's just go with a lot, right? The sort of browsing experience of getting to the, of discovering those channels is really, really tough, right? The voice control will get me to something I already know I want, which is great, but that sort of serendipitous surfing experience is the thing that I think we're missing right now as an industry. And I think we'll figure it out. But my bigger concern is sort of the economics of the app store and customer acquisition, which is largely, all of these big ideas and these big funnels and big money being spent on content leads down to these pinholes, which are the app stores to get the users into there. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that's one of the big challenges that we're looking at for this year and next year, and figuring out how we're going to address that and keep growing.
Yeah, can I just chime on that? I think Scott hit the issue on the head. If we look at the number, so this spans across all content providers, right? So whether it's a premium SVOD services or AVOD or FAST services, discovery will always be a challenge on any platform, right? So it's a real estate problem. And so I think from a platform perspective, we try to continue to solve that through two things. One is, we bake in, for example, TV Plus into the TV itself, just so that it's a comfort experience, but at the same time, we'll use the customer journey and their experience to surface, what we think is relevant to them. This provides an opportunity for niche content providers and whatnot to be able to actually expose their content. And then the second thing that we do is, there are placements that our partners can participate on front page, but also, again, real estate problem, right? So then we provide an opportunity for other content providers who are new to be able to actually find their audience. We have an ad platform that you could actually participate and work with us, and we'll find your audience. So this isn't a specific problem to us. This is actually a platform issue. But I think that we work very closely with content providers and with the data that we have to be able try to solve that problem. So Scott, I think you're right, and I think from a platform perspective, we just updated our UI for this year's TV, but we'll continue to do that so that it's easy for users to discover what they're looking for.
Jeff, do you have any comments on that?
No, I mean, I think they basically covered everything there. So,
all right.
You know
So-
what, Robert, can I just
Yep.
jump in really quick? Because I
Please.
do want to echo what both Scott and Sang are saying. From, a new content platform, that UI becomes even more important as we talk about the small funnel of great content getting to our customers and our viewers. And as we look at the mega companies who push content out on, let's call it ESPN platform channel number 84, to be facetious, it gets harder and harder for new content providers with great content from young creators to get that seen. So, I think not only is the user interface important, but how we promote to them and how we look at new networks and new content companies in a fair way to ensure that we have a platform and a way to promote ourselves and grow, right? So I think that's going to be something that's super important as we see new outlets and new places for content to be delivered.
Excellent. Charlotte, you talked about it earlier about FAST. Why don't we get into that now? Where are we, in your opinion, in the status of the evolution?
Well, I think that despite the fact that usage is significantly increasing, we're still very early days in terms of what we can offer customers. So I think I saw some stats, not specific to Amazon, but just overall, that 60% of adults say that they would rather watch some ad-supported content that they can enjoy without a subscription versus paying for an incremental subscription. And we do know that 6 in 10 households do now have some sort of AVOD or FAST usage going on. So it's definitely on the rise. And what we're seeing, on Fire TV is that customers are getting into the content in two different ways. One is that they're just looking for something they want to watch, the family on the couch on a Friday night. And the content forward UI, similar to what Sang was saying, we're able to surface something that customers want to watch. And great, bonus, it's free. You just click into it. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to pay anything. You just start watching and enjoying. Separately, there's customers who are very specifically looking for free content. So we use the UI to provide those guideposts as well. We have dedicated free landing pages and nodes, as well as indicating, throughout, like, for example, in the home screen, we'll have rows of content that specifically designate free, so customers can, kind of surf right there and know that they're going to have that experience. So since we've started to lean into that more throughout the UI, we've only seen usage just exponentially increase. So we know it's what customers are looking for. So at Amazon, we're taking that feedback back and thinking about not just how can we surface that content for customers, but how can we create it? So we have Imdb TV, which launched a couple of years ago, that offers free ad-supported TV shows and movies. We have our aggregated news, Fire TV news experience, which now offers coverage of many national channels, as well as over 188 local marketplaces. And you just click in and start watching. It's in fact, it's kind of mimics that, sort of traditional cable experience experience where you click in and it's just automatically playing, sort of similar to that kind of nighttime news broadcast that folks might remember.
Excellent. Sang, you have comments on that?
Yeah, for fast service, I think one of the common questions that was asked, we thought we were going to be out of COVID end of last year. And so we thought the viewing would decrease as people return to work. We actually saw 50% increase on Samsung TV Plus. So I think people are still looking for, that experience where, if we look at our data for Samsung TV Plus users, about 60%, more than 60% of our users are cord cutters. And so if you're a cord cutter, what are the type of content you need, right? And I think in short of live sports, we cover probably one of the largest news channels on Samsung TV Plus. So we'll continue to provide that news, and we've seen a very high engagement on news front. So I think for us for fast is, we bake that service into our TV itself, like I talked about before. So it's continuing to look at who are the users actually engaging with fast, types of content they're looking for, and then like earlier, using the recommendations to push those fast channels when audience are looking for to engage with fast service. So we continue to see straddle between the premium services and AVOD services, and then fast is we are probably one of the most watched AVOD services on the platform today. So, and it's only growing. We look forward to it and see the growth on fast this year as well.
Interesting. Thank you, Scott. I see you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I just do that. Yeah, I mean, look, we didn't see any big drop off in terms of streaming usage from last year to this year. I think what we are seeing, though, is a bit of a plateau, right? And I don't think it's a permanent plateau. I think it's a temporary plateau. Like, there was such a surge in growth in 2020. There had to be some sort of a leveling in 2021. It just had to. Now, having said that, like one of the original questions to build on what Sang said was, what happens when COVID's over? COVID's not over. And just look around, read the paper, right? They reported 1 million infections this on Monday. Like, it's not going away. And the idea that it's going to go away is something somebody else needs to think about. Like, for me, when I look at it, I go back to something I said earlier, which is the hybrid, work in an office, work from other places, that's not going anywhere. And I think in both locations, people are looking for consistency of access. Right. I have a lot of devices, but they all have the same stuff on them, which makes one wonder why I have a lot of devices, but that might be a different panel. The consistency of access to my stuff across those devices, across those platforms, across location. I've spent a good chunk of my life on the road for 30 years now. And so I've had to solve the problem of, where's my stuff? Where's the thing I want to watch? Where's the paper I need to edit, whatever. And so everything is in the cloud, and that cloud infrastructure then gives us the ability to get people what they want, where they want, which allows people to be untethered from location. So to me, like, I kind of lean into those things. And just to build on something Angela said a couple minutes ago, I think that is the discovery problem, right? Is new channels, new networks, new shows, new talent for that matter. It is one thing to do a program for an SVOD service that is going to spend a lot of money promoting it, because that's part of how they market the service, is by marketing the content. And that makes perfect sense. And the executive producer in me is super thrilled that that's the paradigm, because that works well for the creative community. And that was something that the creative community here in Hollywood absolutely needed and was primed to lean into. But on platforms that are mostly on the fast side, there is a bunching around the familiar known names. And until we figure out a different way, I just think there's going to be an extraordinary challenge with some of these shows. We've put up shows that we think are great. Highlighting creators, like as a creator, Devin Supertramp, who's a YouTuber, right? Millions and millions and millions of views, millions of followers. We put his stuff on Stir, very, very difficult to get any traffic to it. On the other hand, I put up 5 episodes of X-Files. Everybody goes, right? Because they know what X-Files is. And that to me is sort of, the second level of the discovery challenge. But to me, sort of a really, really, really important one for the FAST community to solve. The SVOD community has a solution, right? Cash. In the FAST world, we don't operate on the same margins and we don't operate on the same scale of expenditure. And so there, the challenge, I think, just gets sharper, and new creators, fresh content brands. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Excellent point. And as we wind this up, we've got a few minutes left in our seminar session here today. Jeff, what's on your mind? What do you look at in 2022 and see really opportunistic and threats that may encounter those opportunities? Jeff, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
I would say, one of the challenges for us is that, we operate a channel versus we don't have we're not the platform, and we're a fast channel that is carried on different platforms. So, one of the big challenges for us is data and analytics, because none of these platforms report the same. Everybody's got, some platforms don't even have dashboards. The ones that do have data and analytics are good, but we're not even able to get audience data and demographics. So when we're talking about FAST, which is basically driven by advertisers, if we're going out to our advertising partners, we're not even able to give a profile on who our consumer is. Now, what we are able to give on certain platforms are the metrics we've been using is average minute per user. So on our top platforms, like consumers are watching our channel in a session over 2 hours, like literally 125 minutes. We ended the year with on our top platforms. But the challenge really for us is consistency and uniformity with data and metrics. Like there's no uniform reporting there, and it's difficult to get audience data. And I do think the platforms probably have access to certain data that they don't give to us, but that's probably our biggest challenge and what we're trying to overcome in 2022.
Thank you. And Angela, as you get your new world started here in LA, what do you see in 2022? You're going to actually end the panel for us because we're out of time, but what do you see as the opportunity and the threats?
I'm going to wrap it up for what I think everybody has their mind on, and it's engagement and revenue, right? We are in a growth phase. We all need to meet and exceed revenue goals, and we all need to have content served in a way that it matters to our customers. So I hope that puts everyone in a nutshell, but that is my focus here at Players TV is growth, revenue, and meeting our customers with content that they want to receive.
Wonderful. And with that, folks, I think we're out of time. I want to thank you all for participating. I think we got a lot out of this in terms of engagement, and hopefully we'll see each other live whenever the next Digital Hollywood event takes place live. And until then, I wish you all the best for 2022 and most certainly great health along the way. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Robert.
Thank you.
Take care.